I'm Brandon Martini, a commercial pilot and flight instructor.
And I'm Carson Vasquez, I'm a private pilot.
And you're listening to the Aviation Mentors podcast, sponsored by Stratus Financial.
So buckle up, because the Aviation Mentors are taking off.
Hey everybody, we want to talk about something that varies greatly between all pilots, from student pilots to an ATP pilot, what we all carry in our flight bags and what those flight bags look like to us. We've got giant flight bags, little tiny flight bags, no flight bag at all. They really vary between every single pilot. So I really want to talk about that today, Carson.
Yeah, I think we could break up your flight bag into really the bag itself, the essentials, the non-essentials, and the emergency items. So let's start with the most important thing, which I think is the bag itself. So Brandon, what kind of bag do you have, if you ever have one at all?
Yeah, that's funny. Half the time I don't have one at all. Now, actually, as of lately, if I just do flight instruction, the only bag I really have with me, I take my headset bag. And my headset bag has just a couple things in it. And obviously, it has my headset in it. But I pretty much just carry my headset bag nowadays, as long as I'm doing something local. If I'm going on a really long cross country or something, it's going to be a little bit different. I do have a backpack. It's by Flight Gear. And I think I got it from Sporties several years ago. And I really, really like that backpack. I use that backpack for flying, and I also use it just for fun. So I really enjoy that bag. And I've had different bags over the years. And I think the one that really kind of works best for me is either that backpack or just my headset bag, where I can throw my keys, my wallet, and my few documents just into that, because that works out pretty well.
Yeah, I usually use a headset bag, when I'm just doing the local flights or just taking somebody up. But again, it just depends on what I'm doing. So when I'm going somewhere far, which far for me isn't like far for you, I just 4-hour flight versus going across the country. But I have one of these Cessna bags. This is the one my dad got me for my first solo, and usually I just have that one. But otherwise, I'll just take my headset. And I'll just keep my medical in my headset, because I can't fly without either one of them.
So Carson, I think I rub off on you a little bit too much by only carrying my flight bag or my headset bag around. I mean, most private pilots, they have a big giant bag with actually way too much in it, probably, unless they're like flying over a glacier or a forest, but not from airport to airport operations. But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, those pilots are just more prepared. And I'm wishing you wouldn't take my bad habits, like only taking my headset bag. So that's pretty funny. But speaking of my headset bag that I use as a flight bag quite often, I know that there is an age-old discussion. What is better, Bose or Lightspeed, which is obviously more superior, of course. So which one do you have in your flight bag? Obviously, either the Bose or the much superior Lightspeed is my guess. One of those two you have? Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's not a lot of things that we differ on, which I think is why we get along so well. And one of the things that I just don't think we'll ever see the same way on is the headsets. And, obviously the Bose A20 is just a much better headset overall. It's just great noise cancellation. Batteries last forever. I can even take your calls when I'm in the airplane, which I do frequently, as, we just work together that well. So... so I really just have the Bose A20s. I love them. I got them, after I used, I think, David Clark's for, 3 lessons. And I bought the Bose A20s right after. So,
I do like the Bose. I actually have 2 or 3 sitting on my desk right now, Bose. I don't use them often, but I still have them. They are great headsets, I have to say. They are really, really good headsets. I just like my Lightspeeds a lot better. For some reason, I've been using my Lightspeed Sierras, which are like $600 or $700. So it's $400 or $500 less than the Bose. And I think they work almost as good as the A20s. And then I do have a Lightspeed Zulu 2s that I like to use as well. For some reason, I don't know. I don't bring that one with me all the time. I probably should. It's a better headset. But I think those are definitely a little bit better than the A20, and just in terms of the way they fit my head. And I don't like that little puffy part on the top of the headset, which always gets the gel out of my hair and just kind of gets ruined. So that's why I like the Lightspeed. And that's what I keep in my flight bag. I keep that Lightspeed Zulu.
Well, I think that the biggest thing for you is who has the better headset bag, and, who has more storage space for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of those bags, what do you really keep in the bag? What essential things do you have in your bag when you're going on these longer trips?
So when I'm going on longer trips, I would say uh, I always bring my knee board with me, no matter what. Even that just doesn't go into my little headset bag that I carry most of the time. But I bring my knee board all the time. I think that's probably one of the most important things. I always bring an iPad with me because that just makes life safer. If I'm going a really long cross country, I'll bring something that I can get ADS-B in with because the planes I fly, they all have ADS-B out, but not all of them have ADS-B in. So I always bring something that will give me that data. Although most of the places I fly across the US, you're not required to have ADS-B. So I think the people that probably need it the most aren't using it. So I think that gives a lot of pilots a sense of safety when you're probably not very safe around the people who don't have it in the first place. They're likely also not talking to people, right? So, but the iPad is really great for situational awareness. I mean, you follow that magenta line, and it'll get you where you're going usually. I always need pens. I always keep several pens, and I actually keep them in different places in my bag or on my person because every time that I need a pen, it always drops and I can't reach it. So I bring lots of pens. If I'm doing a night flight, I will always have a headlamp or a flashlight because you need to do a pre-flight on the airplane before you go fly. And that's going to be kind of essential. And then the headlight, well, sometimes light bulbs go out in airplane cockpits, or sometimes it's a little more dim than you'd like. So I always have that headlight that has a red and a white light on it. So I can kind of transition from either one. And those are kind of the things that I like to keep in my flight bag. And obviously, I don't use paper charts as much as I used to. I use an electronic flight bag. So my iPad has ForeFlight on it, and ForeFlight's always up to date. And my iPad, I actually have all 50 states on them. That way, if I ever lose data, I will definitely be able to get somewhere, wherever I need to go. And that's just because I do a lot of cross-the-country flights. But besides that, I always have my iPhone on me, and that is ForeFlight, and that is up to date too. I normally only have whatever states I'm probably going to be going into, or just a few at one time on that. But those are all kind of the essential things that I like to keep on me if I'm going on a cross country. And depending on the plane I'm flying, if I don't fly it often, I'll also have a handheld radio because you never know when radios are going to go out. And I enjoy flying IFR, and that would not be good if we lost comms during IFR. So those are the things I like to keep in my bag. But Carson, what essential things do you keep in your flight bag?
So a lot of them are pretty similar, probably because you did a lot of my training. But I pretty recently became a private pilot compared to you.
Thanks.
And I no problem. And it's still pretty in my head how to use paper charts and using E6B and all those things. So I do keep paper charts in my bag just for the local area. And if I'm going somewhere a little bit farther, one or two states over, I'll bring the charts for those too. Just because I have such a terrible luck with batteries. I've had my iPad die on me twice or overheat. Same thing with my phone because Southern California gets so hot that I'd rather not be stuck in places I'm pretty much not familiar with and not as confident as someone with more experience. So I'll keep those with me just in case. I always keep pens. I use the same pens, ones that don't smear. That's the last thing I want when I'm in the middle of writing instructions down. And I always keep a headlamp. It has white and red light. And let's see what else. I keep my iPad. I have the big 12.9-inch one.
It's too giant.
And it's going to sound ironic. Everyone says that, but I put it on the seat next to me when I fly alone. And it's just this huge screen right there. It's like having a TV in the cockpit. And
so I think in the future, we're going to have a very heated discussion, not just about our headsets, obviously, that we differ on, but also iPads in the cockpit. So if anybody has any ideas about iPads in the cockpit and they want to chime in, we'd love to have one of our listeners as a guest, so we can all talk about iPads in the cockpit, because I've been in some airplanes with some pilots. They've got like 4 iPads and they're connected on every windshield, and it's way too much. And I'm like, well, we'll fly with a cell phone today if we need to. Less is sometimes more. So that's why we talk about these essential things and non-essential things. So pretty neat.
Yeah, well, I don't use it all the time, just to be clear. But, I do like having that bigger one. It's going to sound like a hypocrite. I don't like using a knee pad as much because it gets in the way and I think it's too big.
We differ on that as well.
Yeah, we can't all be the same, Brandon. It's okay. But besides that, I also keep some other essentials. I have a wallet that has, somewhere for my driver's license and pilot license and medical all in one little tab. And besides that, I also keep an EDSB in receiver and just usually put that on the windshield with the suction cup. And the last most important thing I keep with me is snacks on a longer flight. Something I know is not going to hurt my stomach and make me have to land a little sooner.
Yeah, 100%. I know that I keep some non-essential things too. If I'm going on a really long cross country, I like to bring nuts like pistachios or peanuts or something like that, because those are just really easy to eat and they fill you up. They keep you full. And then I always bring water because you get dehydrated at altitude, but I just don't bring too much water because I don't want to have to land. And I'm not one of those guys that carries in my flight bag one of those Travel Johns or something like that. I refuse to pee in a bottle or do something like that. It's just me. It's only going to take me an extra 30 minutes out of my day and maybe a little bit more money and gas to descend and climb back to where I was at. So I'd rather go stop in a little airport, use their bathroom, and then take off again. So
you know what? It's better than using that and having turbulence while you're using it. So
I would not do that either. Yeah. So just land. It makes life easier, at least in my opinion. But besides that, I keep some different things in my little tiny bag, as well as in my big one. I keep more pens. I keep pens like everywhere. That way I always have a pen if I need it. I keep extra AA batteries for my headset because they do die. I mean, on my commercial check ride, I was using a wireless Lightspeed headset, the Lightspeed Tango, which I've now given to my son. He really likes it. And I liked that headset for a long time because there's no headset wires. But the one day it decided to die on me was the day I was doing my commercial single engine check ride. And from then on, I make sure that I don't use that headset on essential days or ones that I'm going to be flying a ton. Even though it works really well, it just takes some getting used to. And if you're going to fly 1 or 2 hours, it works good. But and besides batteries, I also keep at least 1 or 2 extra mic muffs, because you sound and I sound, everybody sounds absolutely horrible if they don't have a mic muff on their mic. And you'll catch all the wind and it just doesn't go well. So I actually keep extra mic muffs. It's something not many people I think about, but it's saved me several times, and I fly with other people and I've handed them several times. And I just get the universal ones at Aircraft Spruce, and it makes the flight much, much better. So is there anything else you keep in your flight bag besides kind of the things we've talked about already?
Yeah, I usually keep microfiber towel in there. I like to fly, playing with glass instruments in it. And I figure people always like to touch them, especially the ones that are not touchscreen. And it bugs me a little bit, so I usually get a microfiber and just clean that off. And I have really bad allergies. It's always been something I struggle with, so I keep a lot of tissues in my bag, because it's the last thing I want is a runny nose in the middle of me landing. And I also keep Tums for when that $100 hamburger just doesn't agree with me.
That's probably pretty smart.
So. Yeah, and just trying to avoid landing if I don't have to. And besides those non-essential things, there's the things that we keep in our bag and just don't want to have to use. So do you keep anything in your bag for any sort of emergency?
I do. I keep a fire starter. That way, if I get stuck somewhere, I can start a fire and keep myself warm if it's winter or something. I also keep a multi-tool. So, I mean, there's been lots of times where you're at an airport in the middle of nowhere and you just need to make sure that something's right. So maybe you got to take off that top cowling and check something or something like that. So always bring a multi-tool, because if you get stuck in the middle of nowhere, you better be able to at least get out of there, especially if it's a safety reason. So I always keep a multi-tool, and then I always bring cash, and I always have some cash with me, because there's going to be that one day that the credit cards are not working or the credit card machine is down or something along those lines. And I want to be able to make sure I can get fuel or get oil or or get whatever I need. So I always carry cash, but that's probably an old school mindset of mine. I mean, I don't know the last time that credit card machine's really been down, or something like that, but I always keep cash. So that's always something that, oh, you know what else I keep? I always keep battery chargers, because your phone's going to start dying, your iPad's going to start dying. You're always going to have to charge those things. So that's just another thing. But yeah, what other safety items like that do you keep?
I usually keep an extra flashlight, like a really, really solid flashlight. Not one that's meant for the cockpit or anything, just one that's super bright. And I started keeping this actually after I'd slipped getting off of the wing, and I'd scratched the whole back of my leg on the flap. So I started keeping like a little med kit in my bag, just something with Band-Aids, something small, but something that gets the job done. Also keep extra backup portable chargers, some cables for my phone, my iPads, and I keep a pocket knife as well, just in case. And this is the new school way of thinking. I keep a credit card, not cash, in my bag. Probably should keep some cash too. Actually, I have a credit card that I only leave in my flight bag, just in case I have to use it. Don't want to feel like I have to leave an airport and somewhere that I can just afford to be stuck for a day, instead of having to fly back.
Absolutely. And there's one other thing before we close on the day today, that I make sure I bring with me on every trip that I do that involves like an overnight somewhere. I always bring an extra 1 to 2 days of clothes, because you never know flying these small planes if you're going to get stuck somewhere. And there's been countless times I've gotten stuck places, and you always want to have those extra clothes. At least I do. So I have extra clothes, I have extra deodorant, and but those are just on like long trips. So like, for example, when I was flying the Icon back when I first got it, I had to stop in a town in Arizona called Sholo, Arizona. I did not want to go there. I wanted to go to a different city, but the city I was going to didn't have fuel, and the only place I could make it was Sholo, Arizona. And I ended up landing there, and the winds were absolutely atrocious, and I was stuck there for like a day and a half. I got to visit the city, and I got to use a crew car, and the city is beautiful, by the way. And like, their downtown is so cool. I really want to go back there. I'll go land there to go hang out in that city, but that's not what I was planning. So luckily I had extra clothes with me, and I was able to stay there for another day and a half, which was really neat. So that's always something I like to bring with me.
And speaking of experience, I hope you guys had a great experience listening today and enjoyed hearing us talk about our flight bags, and hopefully you guys got some ideas too about what you should carry in yours.
Yeah, and if you'd like to reach out to either one of us, as always, you could reach us on Twitter or Instagram. You can reach me at Mr. Martini Guy, or you can reach Carson at Carson_AV17.
As a wrap up for the day, remember, we're here to guide you in your aviation journey, so fly safe and enjoy the ride.
Thanks so much, guys. Talk to you soon.